So, what do the longest living people on Earth eat on a daily basis, and what foods would you need to eat in order to slow or perhaps reverse the aging process in your own life and allow you to live until potentially your 90s or even say 100? Well, make sure you watch this video because I'm going to be sharing 12 research based superfoods to help you do just that this year. So, no matter what age you are, I highly encourage you to watch this video until the end, especially if you are in your 30s or in your 20s, even. Don't leave this video, okay? Watch this video because this will have major impacts on your future and your legacy. And hey, there's no better time to start thinking about these things than right now. Now is the best time to start eating the right things. And so we're meeting for the first time. My name is Khalil Lee, your friendly physiologist and bona fide plant-based foodie. And on this channel, we share content to promote longevity and to help you to preserve your youthfulness by making sound daily food choices. So we share plant-based recipes as well as educational content just like this in order to help you feel your best day in and day out and to live as long as possible. And so if you feel like this is content that you would enjoy and really benefit a lot from, then I highly encourage you to subscribe to our community so that you don't miss out on a thing. So I want to share that if you are watching this on replay, as always, we will have the timestamps below. Feel free to skip ahead to the section that interests you the most, but we'll start off talking about some of the current stats and trends as it pertains to longevity and aging in the US as well as around the world. I'll then share a little brief definition as to what exactly is a longevity superfood. All right, that term superfood definitely is a buzz term, but I'll just give a brief explanation as to what exactly I mean by a longevity superfood. And then we'll go into the 12 superfoods. And then finally, at the end, I'm going to share how gut health plays kind of a common thread within all of the foods on this list. All right, so you definitely want to make sure you stick around until the end so that you don't miss out on that, because there are some very key concepts there as it pertains to longevity. But just want to start off with some current aging trends that we have seen in the US specifically and around the world. And so, there's this concept known as centenarians. All right. And so these are people that reach the age of 100. So if you think of the term century, cent means 100. That's what a centenarian is. And so this article right here from that I found from the Pew Research Center, this is a recent article that the U.S. centenarian population is projected to quadruple over the next 30 years, which is crazy to think about. And just a quick fact here, the world is home to an estimated 722,000 centenarians, so close to a million. According to the UN population projections for 2024, the US centenarian population is the world's second largest, estimated at around 108,000. All right. So the US is in second. The top country actually is, anyone want to guess? Feel free to guess, put it in the comments below, but it's actually Japan. All right. Japan is home to the largest population of centenarians. I'm going to talk quite a bit about Japan. There's a lot to learn from Japan when it comes to longevity and living as long as possible. So you're going to be hearing about Japan and Okinawa a lot throughout this video. So Japan is the first, US is second, China is actually the third, and then I think the fourth is, I want to say, India, and then it's maybe Thailand. So this just to show the breakdown of centenarians in the US. So the vast majority of Americans in their hundreds are women. Go figure. We know, I'm sure most of you probably know that women tend to outlive men. But if for all the men out there that are watching this, I hope you're watching this because I want to grow old with my wife. I want to be around to see my grandchildren, my great-grandchildren, and all of those things. So men, let's do better. All right, let's do better this year. So the majority are women, and in terms of a race ethnicity standpoint, the predominant majority are white Americans. And so again, not really a shocker in that department. I would say as well, in addition to men, this is especially important for people in the African American, the Black population, like myself. All right. So what it boils down to is, how can we actually change the trajectory of our families? All right. And that's what I want to encourage all of you watching this to think about, is how can you actually change the trajectory of your family legacy through doing things like what we're going to talk about in this video. Some of you may come from families where maybe your parents or even your grandparents pass away at young ages. Maybe you had people in your family that dealt with things like cardiovascular disease or dementia, or the list goes on, diabetes, the list goes on and on. Just to share a little bit about myself, both my parents passed away before the age of 70. All right. And so that's part of my motivation in me and in us, my wife and I, sharing content like this, is so that it can help you change the trajectory of your family. But I'm not going to get too deep into that. I just wanted to put in that little bit of a plug. And so going back to these longevity trends and this whole concept of centenarians really lands and ties into this concept of the blue zones. And so some of you all may be familiar with the blue zones, but the blue zones, if you're not familiar with what those are these parts of the world that have been studied over the years, and they have been found to have some of the highest concentrations of centenarians, or people who live to 100 or longer. The term was coined by a man by the name of Dan Buettner, who you see kind of here in the top right on the screen. But now there are 6 places that include the Nicoya Peninsula in Costa Rica. There's also Italy, Greece, Okinawa, Japan is one of them. And Singapore has actually just been dubbed another one. Loma Linda, California is also one for any Cali folks watching this. But the blue zones, actually, there's a Netflix documentary that came out, I think, just last year. Highly encourage you to check that out. It's a good documentary on Netflix. It's hosted by Dan Buettner himself, so you can kind of learn about the history of how he did this research. And I want to mention as well that we have a video that explains everything you need to know about the blue zones in 3 minutes. So if you're pressed for time, if you don't want to watch the long documentary, or, we also have a full live masterclass that we did on the blue zones, you can just check out this video. It's down in the description notes below right now. And so longevity foods, or longevity superfoods, you might be wondering, what exactly is that? Well, when we refer to longevity food or longevity superfood, this is any food that's associated with longer life or reduced mortality, reduced risk of chronic diseases that lead to early death, and improvements in biomarkers related to chronic diseases such as cholesterol, blood sugar inflammation, oxidative stress, and immune function. All right, so let's go ahead and jump right into these 12 longevity superfoods. Number 1 is oatmeal. A lot of these foods we do have recipes for. And so just to let you know, as I'm going through some of these, you're probably going to see just some references to some of those recipes, so that you can check them out for yourself in case you're needing some ideas of how to use these. But one little disclaimer as I'm going through this list, you all, is that this is not at all an exhaustive list of foods that promote longevity. I mean, really, we could be here all day and all night talking about all of the different foods that promote longevity and slow the aging process. So just know, hey, as I share these 12 foods, it's not an exhaustive list. This is just a list of ones that I felt really stood out from among the pack, and that do have quite a bit of evidence, or a growing body of evidence behind, as it pertains to longevity and reducing disease and things of that nature. And also, I want to note that these are general recommendations. So health really is personalized. It's a personalized journey. And so perhaps there could be some foods on this list that maybe you're even allergic to, or maybe have some intolerances towards. So just know as well that these foods that I'm sharing are general recommendations, assuming that you don't have any sensitivities or intolerance towards any of these foods. But please, by all means, tailor your nutrition and your approach to these based on your specific life context and conditions. But just to jump into some research here as it pertains to oatmeal, I want to call out this study that did look at oats lowering age-related systemic chronic inflammation in adults at risk for cardiovascular disease. So this is a study that was published in 2022. The whole purpose of this study, or looking at the fact or the suggestion that this systemic chronic inflammation could be a factor leading to cardiovascular disease. So they wanted to look at, these markers of inflammation. How did consumption of oats impact this? And so the effects of the oat product on inflammation were largely driven by a decrease in, this is a protein that basically it's an inflammation protein, it's inflammatory protein, an age-related chemokine independent of a person's gender, body mass index, blah, blah, blah. Thus, we describe a novel anti-inflammatory role for oats that could have a major impact on functional, preventative, and personalized medicine. And so just to go a little bit further, this is a review looking at the health beneficial properties of oats. So it says, oat is among the food crops and ancient grains cultivated and consumed worldwide. It's gaining popularity. Beta-glucan, here you see beta-glucan again, is an important component of dietary fiber found in oat grains. It is the major active compound in oats with proven cholesterol lowering and anti-diabetic effects. The consumption of oats has been determined to be beneficial for human health by promoting immunomodulation and improving gut microbiota. In addition, oat consumption assists in preventing diseases such as atherosclerosis, dermatitis, and some forms of cancer. So let's look at a little. We talked about some of the research. Let's look at a little bit at what some of the just observational things that have been reported out there by the people who live long themselves, what they say about oatmeal. So this was an article that was published in Forbes some time ago about how to live to be 101. And in this article, they interviewed a lady by the name of Daisy McFadden, a longtime resident of Bronx, New York, and basically just asked her, she was about to turn 100, and they asked her, what do you eat on a daily basis? And so she believes her eating habits have greatly contributed to her longevity. For years, she's eaten a breakfast of oatmeal, cranberry juice, and a banana. I think Daisy was trying to tell us something, y'all. All right. Daisy was trying to tell us something very important, that, hey, sometimes it's the simple things, the simple breakfast of something like oatmeal and oatmeal porridge. We can learn a lot from the examples of those who have been successful in these areas. All right. We don't have to reinvent the wheel here. So a lot to be said when it comes to oatmeal. All right. So let's go into number 2, berries. Blueberries, talking strawberries, raspberries, blackberries, all the berries. What berries are known for is a compound, or they're antioxidants. So you all might be familiar with the word antioxidant. That word antioxidant literally means anti-oxygen. So if you've ever heard of the term free radicals, all right, or reactive oxygen species, so these are basically results of buildup of oxygen in certain parts of the body that can just cause a lot of damage. It can cause things like cancer. They've been tied to things like cause of cancer, different diseases, certain neurodegenerative diseases, things that, affect the nervous system and so many different parts of the body. And so an antioxidant, which now you've been informed, is something that helps to stabilize those free radicals. All right. So think of a rowdy person and saying, hey, chill, calm down. All right, calm down. That's basically what antioxidants do in the body. And that's the great thing about plant-based foods, is that a lot of them contain these antioxidants, and berries being a huge one. And so the main antioxidant found in berries is this. There are different categories of antioxidants, and one of them is called polyphenols. Just to look at this article when it comes to polyphenols and longevity. So this is impact of polyphenolic food on longevity and elixir of life. says recently growing interest has emerged on the beneficial effects of plant-based diets for prevention of chronic diseases. Several studies suggest that the intake of polyphenols in their major food sources may exert beneficial effects on improving insulin resistance and related diabetes risk factors such as inflammation and oxidative stress. They are the most abundant antioxidants in the diet, and their intake has been associated with reduced aging in humans. All right, anything that's mentioning that, we want to pay special attention to. We can kind of food stack a lot of these foods that I'm going to share on this list. And this is a great example. You know, if you are someone, maybe you're looking to incorporate some oatmeal porridge, you can put some fresh berries on that, and it just adds to the fiber content and adds to the polyphenol content, which is really going to also help promote gut health. That's a very easy way to apply the whole berries into your breakfast. I want to just give a special call out to the acai berry. And so you all might be familiar with acai berries. Maybe you've had an acai bowl from certain acai bowl restaurants. Acai berries are very unique in the fact that they are very, very high in antioxidants. And specifically, they've been, tested, and it's been reported that they have almost double the amount of antioxidants that blueberries have, which is, pretty incredible when you think about it. And so you can actually get acai berries, maybe not in whole berry form, but there are other ways that you can get acai into your diet. One way is just by buying the powder that's sold in powder form. You can actually purchase powders like this on Amazon. And this is actually one that we've gotten on Amazon. And so acai powder, you can put it into your smoothies. You can add it into your oatmeal or whatever you want to, any kind of beverage. And that's an easy way just to increase the antioxidant content of what it is that you are eating. Want to mention that we do have a juice recipe on the channel. It's a combination of acai, elderberries, and blueberries all combined into one juice. We make all of our juices in a blender, and so this is a blended juice recipe that includes that acai powder as well as an elderberry syrup that we made. We call it a total antioxidant powerhouse, but that is on the channel for anyone to check out. Number 3, we're all of my matcha lovers out there. Raise your hand if you love green tea, matcha. This is another great longevity food, and we're starting to see there's a growing body of research around matcha and its impacts on reducing or slowing the aging process, helping to extend the lifespan. And so this is one study we'll pull up looking at the effects of green tea on brain aging. So let's look at that here. So epidemiological studies have demonstrated that the intake of green tea is effective for reducing the risk of dementia. All right, some of you all watching this, maybe you have someone in your family that has dealt with dementia. All right, I know for my wife's grandmother, that was something that she went through. All right, and so this is really, these are things that I'm sure hit home for us and for a lot of you. And so again, just further emphasizes the point that these foods are foods that, hey, start incorporating them now if you haven't already. The most important risk factor for dementia is brain aging. Therefore, our research has focused on the role of green tea in preventing brain aging. Theanine and arginine suppress the aging due to their anti-stress effects. So L-theanine is known for having kind of a calming effect on the body, which, it's an amazing thing when you think about it, right? Who in here wouldn't want to be a little less stressed during your workday when you're at the office? I'm sure that's all of us. And so that's the unique thing about matcha and green tea, is that it has this compound that has kind of this calming effect in addition to giving a natural source of caffeine energy. One of the things that I do want to mention is that matcha is still being researched. There is still a lot that needs to be looked at when it comes to green tea in human studies. A lot of the studies that have been done on matcha and green tea have been done more in animals. According to the results of an epidemiological survey of approximately 91,000 Japanese people aged between 40 and 69 who were followed for almost 19 years all-cause mortality, so that's basically death from any type of cause, was significantly reduced in those who drank 5 or more cups of green tea every day compared to those who drank less than 1 cup per day. And they're actually referencing this study right here that was done looking at the Japanese population. And so you might be thinking, well, I mean, Kylie, I'm not really about to be drinking 5 cups of matcha a day. And that's yes, totally understand. You definitely don't have to drink 5 cups per day, but even just 1 cup per day, could potentially give you some benefit if it's done consistently over time. Because the thing about matcha that it does contain these antioxidants similar to what we just talked about with the berries. And so that's why matcha is so unique. One thing I do want to mention is that green tea, as some of us may know it, we may know of it in what comes in your typical tea bags, like what you might buy from the grocery store, like what you see right here. But when I'm talking about matcha, I want to emphasize that I'm not really talking about the green tea, the more translucent green tea that's in the filter bags. We want to go for this type of matcha. All right. We want to go for the matcha that's in the powdered form, the matcha that you mix with water. You have to kind of use a whisk to incorporate. And this is the type of matcha that you might find in a coffee shop, but you can actually purchase these matchas. They sell them online on places like Amazon. And it's that vibrant green powder. And I want to emphasize, you want to look specifically for a Japanese matcha that is ceremonial grade. Now, some of you all maybe have purchased matcha at the grocery store and you bought it and you looked at it and it was like this dark green, not very attractive looking matcha. That's known as culinary grade matcha. It's the type of matcha that's used in a lot of just, food recipes. That's not the matcha or I would encourage you not to go for that type of matcha. The type of matcha you want to go for that you want to purchase is your ceremonial grade matcha. And what that is, it's matcha that has been harvested early. These are the matcha leaves that are going to have that very vibrant green look. And it's also the matcha that's going to have the highest antioxidant content. So just remember from this that the type of matcha that you want to purchase is the ceremonial grade matcha produced in Japan, because they're the king of matcha if you think about it. So you want to go for the matcha that looks something like this. Now you don't have to have that, fancy, cute little flower design in the middle of it, but you want the type of matcha that's that really vibrant, bright green color. All right, moving on to food number 4, nuts and seeds. Some of you might be allergic to nuts. I want to be, sensitive to that. And there are so many different nuts out there. And even if you are allergic to nuts, perhaps you might not be allergic to certain seeds. So just know that there are different seeds out there, like pumpkin seeds. Pumpkin seeds are a thing that we like to put on our oatmeal. All right, there we go with the food stacking again. Pumpkin seeds, sunflower seeds, chia seeds, a lot of different seed options out there. But nuts and seeds are most definitely a longevity food. And so this study they evaluated over 7,000 men and women aged 55 to 80. And so they looked at the association between frequency of nut consumption and mortality in individuals with high cardiovascular disease from Spain. Nut consumption was associated with a significantly reduced risk of all-cause mortality. Compared to non-consumers, subjects consuming at least 3 servings of nuts per week had a 39% lower mortality risk than non-consumers. Compared to non-consumers, those who just consume at least 3 servings of nuts per week. 3 servings of nuts per week, y'all. That's each of a couple handfuls of almonds 3 days a week. All right, you'll be Gucci. You'll be good. Gucci, as the young folks say. A similar protective effect against cardiovascular and cancer mortality was observed. All good things we want to hear. Participants allocated to the Mediterranean diet with nuts group who consumed that amount had the lowest total mortality risk Strong case for nuts and seeds. All right, nuts and seeds. Number 5. Let's jump into number 5. EVOO. All right, that extra virgin olive oil. You might be wondering, extra virgin olive oil is a longevity food? Yes. Yes, extra virgin olive oil is absolutely a longevity food with a host of benefits. It is another food that contains antioxidants, specifically polyphenols, where you're going to start to see there's a recurring thread that you're seeing here. We're talking about, things having fiber, things having antioxidants, impacting gut health. Going to talk a little bit more about that later. But extra virgin olive oil is an excellent superfood. I'm not going to jump into any specific studies here because we do actually we did a full masterclass on 6 reasons that you should consume olive oil daily as it pertains to longevity and helping to slow and reverse the aging process. We have that link right now in the description. We'll put it up in the cards as well. But in that video, I talk about research that shows that even just as little as 2 tablespoons of olive oil per day can or has been associated with lower risk of disease and causes of mortality and things of that nature. So definitely check it out. There's a lot of great content in there and a lot of great studies that we cover. And I want to do another not this but this comparison just to show the type of olive oil that we're talking about. So when we talk about olive oil, not just talking about any kind of olive oil that you would see in the store, but very specifically make sure that the olive oil that you're getting is more like this. You want to find an extra virgin olive oil that is from a single country, a single source country. Even some of the extra virgin olive oils that you see in the store don't really hit all of the criteria that you want to look for when you want to find a good high quality extra virgin olive oil. Doesn't mean that you can't purchase that extra virgin olive oil. We just want to try to find the one that has the highest antioxidant capacity. And so going back to this video, definitely I encourage you to watch this video because I give the full criteria of exactly what to look for in a high quality extra virgin olive oil. I had the opportunity to go to Barcelona, Spain a couple of years ago. We both did. And I was actually able to go to an olive oil sommelier. Y'all, like, yes, those exist. Olive oil sommeliers. It's not just in the wine community, but I learned so much. It was so enlightening. And so again, extra virgin, first cold pressed is also what you want to look for on that. All right, number 6, we're getting halfway there. Legumes, your beans, your lentils, your peas. All right, all of those are considered legumes. Even certain things that we consider nuts would be considered legumes. I believe peanuts are considered legumes. But in this case, I'm talking about more the ones that we would typically cook. All right, your black beans, your chickpeas, your lentils. Love lentils in this house. Black-eyed peas, any of the ones that you see in this picture. Legumes, most definitely a great longevity food, superfood. So just to go back to some of the research here on legume consumption and risk of all-cause and cause-specific mortality. They looked at over 1 million folks in this study, in this cohort-based study. That's a ton of folks, a lot of folks. And what they found was that higher intakes of legumes compared with lower intakes were associated with a reduced risk of mortality from all causes. A 50 gram per day increase in legume intake was associated with a 6% reduction in risk of all-cause mortality. Higher legume intake was associated with lower mortality from all causes and stroke, but no association was observed for cardiovascular disease and cancer mortality, which I do think is interesting that it showed that, because when we look at this study was looking specifically at legume consumption, actually lowers cholesterol levels, which would down the line impact cardiovascular disease risk and lowering that risk. So who knows why they didn't see that in the other study. But This is a study that's looking at non-soy legumes. It doesn't mean that soy-based legumes like soybeans are bad. I'm going to make a video on that, by the way, just to kind of tear down that whole argument. But they wanted to look specifically at non-soy legumes. Total cholesterol for those in the legume diet was almost minus 12 milligrams per deciliter for the total cholesterol, and mean change in LDL, which is considered the bad cholesterol. Those are the ones that clog your arteries. 8 milligram per deciliter change, which, you know, it's definitely something to note. All right, moving on to number 7. Number 7 is your dark leafy greens. Your dark leafy greens. Of course, we had to have this on here. When I think of this, I think of my father. He used to always, my brother and sister can attest to this, he would always ask us, have you eaten anything green today? Lord rest his soul. But he was right. He was right. So dark leafy greens, we all know it's important to get our greens in, right? But let's look a little bit at what some of the research says on this topic. So this study looked at the nutrients and bioactives in green leafy vegetables and cognitive decline. This was a prospective study. 960 participants of the Memory and Aging Project, ages 58 to 99 years, had over 2 cognitive assessments over about 5 years. It says consumption of green leafy vegetables was associated with a slower cognitive decline. The decline, here's a kicker here. Really pay attention to this, y'all. The decline rate for those in the highest quintile of intake was slower by 0.05 standardized units, or the equivalent of being 11 years younger in age. Think about that. Let that settle in for a second. Just one serving of dark green leafy vegetables per day was shown to have an age reversing effect on the brain of as much of about 11 years. So it basically made these people seem like they were 11 years younger. Think about that, y'all. Just one serving of dark green leafy vegetables per day. That could be your kale. That could be your collard greens. By the way, I want to mention, when I say collard greens, not just the ones that most of us grew up eating from grandma that were, deeply seeped and stewed and a lot of juice, which, hey, I enjoyed it all. Grandma used to throw down in the kitchen. But when you're cooking your collards and really any of these types of greens, you can do them in some more in a lot of a simpler format. All right, even just sauteing them, or if you are going to put them in a juice or even like a broth, just make sure that you're actually consuming the broth with it, because the broth is going to contain all of those nutrients because they kind of seep out into the broth. But just one serving a day, y'all, of dark green leafy vegetables can have this impact that we're seeing. I mean, it's astounding when we look at the research in these areas. Consumption of approximately one serving a day of green leafy vegetables may help slow the cognitive decline with aging. Don't skimp out on your greens. Don't skimp out on your greens. It really is simple, you all, to incorporate greens into so many different parts of what you eat throughout the day. You don't have to just do a salad, although that's sometimes what we typically think about when we think about getting our greens. But one of the easiest ways to get your greens is just adding it subtly into a lot of different things, whether that be a smoothie. All right, you make a green smoothie, for example. It could be in something like a stew. All right, we made a gnocchi stew. I made a gnocchi stew, or a gnocchi soup, creamy gnocchi soup, the other day. And, it's got gnocchi and a bunch of different vegetables in it. And one of the last things that I added, chopped up some of that lacinato kale and just dumped it all into the stew and just let it wilt. And boom, you got some greens right there. It also adds a nice little green color to the dish as well. But so many easy ways to just slide greens into whatever it is that you're eating. All right, number eight, sweet potatoes. There are many different types of sweet potatoes. There are purple colored sweet potatoes. In case you didn't know, believe it or not, they're purple colored sweet potatoes. So you're not seeing things on the screen here. That's an actual type of sweet potato. And when it comes to these sweet potatoes specifically, I want to tie this back to the one of the blue zones, specifically that in Okinawa, Japan. And so Okinawa is one of the blue zones that I mentioned earlier. And the Okinawan diet is known kind of similarly to the Mediterranean diet. It's kind of is its own term. And let's look at this one study or this one review looking at healthy aging diets other than the Mediterranean, a focus on the Okinawan diet. And this review really just kind of goes over the Okinawan diet and exactly the types of things that they eat in the Okinawan diet. So it says the traditional diet in Okinawa is anchored by root vegetables, principally sweet potatoes, green and yellow vegetables, soybean-based foods, and medicinal plants. Marine foods, lean meats, fruit, medicinal garnishes are also moderately consumed. Many characteristics of the traditional Okinawan diet are shared with other healthy dietary patterns, including the Mediterranean, DASH diet, and portfolio diet. All these dietary patterns are associated with reduced risk for cardiovascular disease, among other age-associated diseases. The thing that's very unique about the purple sweet potato, which we've had on some occasions, is that so whether you're consuming purple or orange, you're getting a type of antioxidant. And so with the orange sweet potatoes, you're getting the carotenoids or the beta carotene. That's what gives it the orange color. But the purple sweet potatoes, you're going to get some of the anthocyanins, which are the same types of antioxidants that are found in things like blueberries, which we covered off on earlier. So anthocyanin, if you break that word down, that cyanin means blue in essence. So folks in Okinawa, they are all about, the Centenarians, they're all about consuming sweet potatoes and really a lot of carbohydrates for that matter. And this diagram, this is actually from that article that I just showed, shows a comparison of the Okinawan diet to those other diets, as well as the different types of Okinawan diets. And I want to call out here the traditional Okinawan diet, which traditional in the sense that it's adjusted over time as countries become more modernized. Some of the diets of old obviously don't look the same as they do today. But look at that stat there, y'all, the 85% carbohydrate content. So of their diet, traditionally speaking, about 85% of their diet was made up of carbs, y'all. Carbs. And even if you look at the modern Okinawan diet, as much as 58% of their diet is made up of carbs. And I just want to call that out real quick because, we do live in a day and age where carbs tend to get a bad rap, right? Especially as we now see, the risings of things like the ketogenic diet, carnivore diet, a number of these different fads that oftentimes promote amazing health and longevity by eliminating or reducing in high amounts a very key macronutrient such as carbohydrate. I think it's interesting that we see, again, follow the examples of those who have been successful. Now, I'm not saying that your diet has to be made up of 85% of carbohydrates. That is not what I'm saying at all. But I share this to say that we don't have to be afraid or scared when it comes to the consumption of carbohydrates, because they are an essential nutrient, an essential macronutrient that provide a lot of the benefits that our bodies need, especially if you are a physically active person, an athlete. That's actually my background. I was, for the past 10 years, a research scientist in the area of sport nutrition and hydration, working primarily with athletic populations. And that was something that we would always try to drill with them, is that, hey, you need carbs. It's okay. Carbs are okay as long as you are, not over consuming them, which you don't want to over consume anything, right? Too much of anything is bad for you. But the folks in Okinawa, they love their sweet potatoes and they eat their sweet potatoes, and it's seemed to work for them because the potatoes contain good starches, good fiber rich starches, especially if you consume them with the skin. And then they also will provide those antioxidants as we're continuing to talk about. All right, so number 9, one of our favorites, beetroot. Beetroot, how many beetroot lovers do we have watching this right now? Beetroot, most definitely a superfood, a longevity promoting superfood. And beets are known for containing what's called nitrate, a source of dietary nitrate. And nitrate, very simply, is a compound that helps your blood vessels to expand. And what that does is it allows blood to flow through the body more easily and to different areas, including things like the brain. And so when you think about that, most definitely beetroot makes a strong case when you talk about a longevity food. And so let's look at one quick study here on beetroot juice and an ergogenic aid for exercise and the aging brain. So they had 26 elderly people go through this protocol, and there were some that were in the group where they exercised regularly as well as drank beetroot juice. And then there was the other group that was just exercise and a placebo, probably some other type of thing that tasted like beetroot, but that actually wasn't beetroot. And so just to jump down here, the exercise and beetroot juice group had brain networks that more closely resembled those of younger adults. Now, we titled this thing Aging Backwards. All right. So thinking about this concept of either slowing the aging process if you are young, all right, preserving that youthfulness, or if you are, a little more seasoned, reversing the effects of aging. It is possible in certain regards, depending on how you look at it. And so basically this shows that there's showing the potential enhanced neuroplasticity conferred by combining exercise and beetroot juice consumption. All right, so basically what they found, y'all, was that by doing two things, drinking beetroot juice and exercising, it helped to make their brains almost younger in a sense. Their brains seem younger based on the images. I think they use MRI to basically look at the people's brains before and after the study. And what they found was that those who drank beetroot juice and exercise, they seem to have younger looking brains than those that didn't consume the beetroot juice. So, I mean, hey folks, if you're trying to keep that brain young, then eat your green leafy vegetables and make sure you're consuming your beetroots. Not just the beetroot itself, but also the beetroot leaves. All right. The beetroot leaves also contain high sources of nitrate. So when you buy beets from the grocery store, don't just throw away the leaves if you can. Try to preserve those leaves and eat those leaves. You can put them in a smoothie. You can make them as a salad, and definitely excellent source of dietary nitrates. All right. Some of y'all maybe started following us based on the video that I did where I drank beetroot juice for 21 days straight in order just to see, how it would affect me. And I like doing food challenges like that. You might see me do little nutrition challenges like that on this channel. But hey, it is something that is a good thing to incorporate on a regular basis, even if you don't consume it every day, on a consistent basis in some form or format. Getting beets in some form, whether it's through juice or you can roast beets, eat them in whole beet form, is a great way to get those benefits. Now, you might be someone that's like, well, I don't really like the way beets taste. They taste a little bit too earthy for me. No worries at all. I want to let you know that, hey, there are more types of beets out there than just your typical red beets. There are golden beets that you might be able to find in your local store, depending on where you are. I want to acknowledge they're not everywhere, but you might be able to find golden beets in a store near you. And the great thing about golden beets, y'all, is that they don't have that earthy taste, that same earthy taste that red beets do, but they still give you those beneficial nitrates that you want from having beets. And so I want to just call out that we do have a citrus golden beetroot juice. Here's another blended juice recipe that we have on this channel. It's down in the description below. You can check it out. Really quick video shows how we make this. We like to call it liquid gold. But yeah, citrus golden beetroot juice recipe. It tastes excellent. No added sugars or anything like that. Just the fruits and the beets and some water. No earthy taste. All right, number 10. We're getting close to the end here. Mushrooms. Gonna do a whole masterclass video on mushrooms on this channel, because mushrooms, y'all, it's just the more and more I'm learning about mushrooms, the more we eat mushrooms a lot in this house. The more and more I'm learning about mushrooms, and the more that we are starting to learn about mushrooms in the scientific community, the more we realize, like, man, mushrooms are the jam. Now, when I say mushrooms, I want to clarify, I'm not talking about psychedelic mushrooms here. All right. So get that out of your mind. That's not what types of mushrooms I'm talking about here. No, I'm talking about gourmet and medicinal mushrooms. So these are mushrooms that you might see even at a fancy restaurant that are cooked in certain ways, or mushrooms that you might see in certain extract forms, like you might see on Amazon. They sell liquid extracts of certain types of mushrooms, or powdered extracts that you can consume that way, that have a host of a number of different benefits. And let's take a look at a little bit at some of this here. Unlocking the power, new insights into the anti-aging properties of mushrooms. And so I do want to mention mushrooms are another food on this list that there isn't a ton of research out yet on mushrooms in human studies or in human subjects. Still a growing body, but some of the things that we are seeing here are very, very promising. And so this looks like new insights into the anti-aging properties of mushrooms. So recently it has been discovered that reactive oxygen species can accelerate the aging process. Remember, I mentioned that earlier, reactive oxygen species, leading to an increased incidence of age-related diseases that are characteristic of aging. This review aims to discuss the potential of mushrooms as a dietary intervention for anti-aging, focusing on their nutritional perspective. So this says mushrooms contain various compounds, including carbohydrates, bioactive proteins, fungal lipids, and phenolic compounds. Those are those antioxidants. So don't sleep on the mushrooms, y'all. They might be a fungus technically, but they're packed with a lot of stuff. And the same type of fiber that's in oatmeal, that beta glucan that we mentioned earlier, is actually contained in a lot of these different types of mushrooms that we see here. So a lot to gain from mushrooms. These compounds have shown promising effectiveness in combating skin aging and age-related diseases. Some of y'all out there, maybe some of you ladies out there, trying to look younger. You want your skin to look a little younger. Hey, maybe incorporate some mushrooms. Just saying. So studies, or it says in vitro and in vivo studies have demonstrated that treatments with mushrooms or their extracts can significantly extend lifespan and improve health span. All right, these findings provide a strong basis for further research. So basically it's saying more research is needed here. This is another study looking at the association of mushroom consumption with all-cause and cause-specific mortality among American adults. In this study, they looked at people's survey responses. I talked about surveys here from something called the NHANES survey. That's the one used here in America. And so mushroom intake was assessed by a single 24-hour recall. And they looked at, the association between that and mortality. Over 15,000 participants. So here's the main kicker. Consuming one serving of mushrooms per day instead of one serving of processed or red meats was associated with lower risk of all-cause mortality. we observed a dose-response relationship between higher mushroom consumption and lower risk of all-cause mortality. So basically what they're saying is the more mushrooms people consumed, the lower the risk, the lower the mortality or death risk that they saw. All right, it was an inverse relationship. Now, one thing I do want to acknowledge here, it did say consuming mushrooms instead of processed or red meats. So some of you all even maybe watching this channel. On this channel, most of what you will see us put out, if not just about all, will be plant-based focused things, plant-based recipes. Adrian and I are predominantly plant-based. I mean, I would say I eat probably like a 95% plant-based diet. I have what I call like a 5% flex, where maybe, hey, I might consume a little cheese here and there. I like my pizza every now and then, y'all. Nothing wrong with that. It's called being flexitarian, right? But I just do want to mention that what we do commonly see in the populations of people that do live the longest is a thread of mostly consuming fruits and vegetables. I'm not going to sit up here and say that you have to be vegan in order to live long. That's actually not the case. Even in the blue zones areas, not all of those people were fully vegan. All right. They had they kind of ate like a 95% plant-based diet. You'll learn if you watch the video, you'll see that, that being talked about, that plant slant. But I do want to just mention that, hey, if you're someone watching this and you're like, man, do I really have to give up meat? Do I have to give up chicken or fish? Let me be the first one to say, no, you don't have to. All right. You can, perhaps consume that in moderation if it's one of your go-to sources of protein. But just know that we want to emphasize trying to consume things that are high in fiber, more fruits and vegetables, legumes, nuts and seeds, mushrooms, things of that nature as much as possible, because those are what are associated with a lot of these benefits that we're seeing here. So I just wanted to clear the air on that. We are not a strictly vegan, nothing else type of community or platform here. But if you are fully vegan and that's your jam, hey, please, stay with us, because again, a lot of what we do, a lot of what we share is fully plant-based. So there's definitely a lot for you on here. All right. Now, one of the things I do want to call out in the mushroom department, we do have, again, another recipe, a quick mushroom recipe. Now, mushrooms are easy to find in the store. The ones that we typically like to get are the portobello mushrooms, or even the baby portobello mushrooms, also known as cremini mushrooms, which you hear that term. They're usually the cheapest. They're not very expensive. And I think we buy a like little 8-ounce canister of those for like $3. I mean, they're great go-tos to put in a lot of different things. Sometimes I'll make our own plant-based meat with, I'll do some lentils, and then I'll chop up some of these, cremini mushrooms and put some kind of, sauce in them, and it gives it kind of like a meat-like texture. Great way to go and incorporate mushrooms. So we do have this recipe, basil roasted mushroom bowl. We'll make sure that that's available in the description for you all as well. Got some coconut quinoa in there, some lacinato kale going to those greens. Again, we're all about food stacking here with these longevity superfoods, as well as the nuts. You see in the middle there, those are some roasted almonds in the middle. All right, so we're combining all of these things. I want to talk a little bit about lion's mane. Now, you might not be familiar, maybe you are, with the lion's mane mushroom. And you might look at it and be like, man, what is that? That looks weird. That doesn't look like anything I saw on Super Mario. Definitely not. This is a type of mushroom that has been generating a lot of buzz over the past few years, mainly for its potential benefits on the brain. And it's been shown to potentially help protect the brain and the nervous system against certain diseases that attack the nervous system, like dementia, or like certain neurodegenerative diseases, multiple sclerosis, things like that. And it also has been shown to potentially help the body or the brain to create new nerve cells and new brain cells. And that's where this whole component of reversing the aging process in the brain, that's what it's all about. It's the more we can produce more brain cells, more nerve cells, that's what we want to go for. And so lion's mane has kind of been a new, I guess you could say, I won't call it obsession. It's not an obsession, but it is an infatuation of mine. And I've been practicing growing. One of my new hobbies is growing my own mushrooms and growing them right here in our house. And these are a few photos of some of the very lion's mane mushrooms that I recently grew using the bucket technique. And I plan to put out a video on this. Let me know in the comments if you're interested in seeing this. But because we also on this channel, we want to show you how to grow some of these foods yourselves, right? Because nothing better than eating the foods that you grow yourself. But yeah, you can see them right here sprouting out of the bucket. We actually got 3 flushes of lion's mane mushrooms out of this one bucket and 1 bag of grain spawn, which you'll see in the video. But yeah, I mean, a lot of things you can do with this mushroom when it comes to eating it. It actually is known for having a very kind of meat-like texture. A lot of people use lion's mane for mimicking certain seafood type dishes with things like crab or lobster because it actually kind of somewhat tastes like that a little bit. And it does have that type of texture. If you see that picture down in the bottom right, that was my lion's mane chicken. All right. So I tried to make it look like chicken, gave it that nice seared look and cut it up. And I mean, at a quick glance, a cursory glance, I mean, hey, y'all, let me know what you think. But that thing almost looked like chicken to me. Almost. All right. But a lot of things you can do with lion's mane mushrooms. And it has been shown to have quite a number of different benefits on, or potentially different benefits on the brain and nervous system. This is one article that talks about the neuroprotective effects protecting the brain and nervous system by the lion's mane. I'm not going to get too deep into this, but just want to quickly highlight that. All about the lion's mane mushroom here. All right, number 11, fermented foods. Fermented foods. All right, how many kimchi lovers out there? How many sauerkraut? I'm not a huge sauerkraut person. It's been a while since I've had sauerkraut, but fermented foods, definitely a great longevity food. You can ferment your own foods. You might not have known that sourdough bread is also a fermented food, something that you can incorporate. I didn't put it on this list, but I would include that as part of fermented foods. Fermented foods encompass a lot of different things. It's really any food that has gone through a fermentation process, which is a process in essence, kind of, letting it sit, letting the good types of bacteria accumulate in that food. And it's been known to have a lot of benefits, or they've been known to have a lot of benefits on gut health. And so just to take a quick look here at fermented foods on aging and longevity. This is actually a book chapter. Fermented foods have been in the human diet for thousands of years. They've gained more attention among people due to their functional microbes, which possess antioxidant, antimicrobial, which is antibacterial, probiotics. All right. So fermented foods are a good natural source of probiotics, which are the good bacteria that our intestines, our guts need, not just for digestion, but for so many other health benefits. We have a full masterclass on all things gut health if you want to learn more about that. And so modulates or specific actions in the human body related to healthy aging and longevity. Growing evidence suggests that fermented foods change the metabolic activities in the gut and increase benefit in age-associated changes. All right. Gut microbiota, gut-brain axis. We won't get too deep into there. But big longevity food would be fermented foods. Here's another review: anti-inflammatory and immunomodulatory properties. That basically means properties that support the immune system. So fermented foods can help support and strengthen your immune system, folks. And That's a great thing. Even as I sit here doing this live, I'm congested. If you can't tell, um, having a strong immune system, hey, that's something that we all need. All right, something that we all want and need. But this goes deeper into the impacts of fermented foods on strengthening the immune system through its high antioxidant content, probiotic content. In case you didn't know, the gut is a prime space for where our immune systems live. That's kind of the foundation of our immune system. So the better your gut health is, then perhaps the better your immune system may be. All right. So that is fermented foods. I want to call out quickly here Tempeh as one of the fermented foods to highlight. It is a fermented food. If you're not familiar with tempeh, what it is, these are beans that have been fermented through a fermentation process, and they've been packed tightly together in these steak-like forms that you see here. They're usually made from soybeans. So the tempeh that you might find in the store is usually made from soybeans, but you can actually make tempeh from any type of bean, believe it or not. And so if you see this in the store, all right, these are probably two brands of tempeh that you might see in the store. Excellent, excellent food, and excellent source of plant-based protein, by the way. So if you're someone that's looking to not only incorporate something that is contains a source of probiotics, contains a high source of plant-based protein, and also is a great source of fiber, just a great all-around gut health food, then tempeh, you got to check out tempeh. Got to check out tempeh. It's definitely a great one to try. We do have on this channel a ginger barbecue tempeh recipe, and y'all, it's one of my personal favorite recipes. I make a ginger barbecue sauce that we put on it, and the flavors are excellent. Tempeh by itself kind of has a bland taste, so you really have to dress it up in seasonings or in sauces to give it the flavor that you want it. But y'all, if you're looking for a plant-based barbecue recipe, it's down in the description below right now. You can check it out. But tempeh is definitely a great fermented food option. And last but certainly not least, now I told you all that this last food, or I guess you can't really call it food, but the last one on this list is one that you maybe did not expect as a longevity food. Anyone want to take a guess? Put your answer down in the comments if you think you know what it is. And it is water, y'all. And you might be looking at me like, man, Khalil, really? You set us up just to tell us that water was the last one? Yes, I'm sorry. Guilty as charged. But I don't want to overlook the importance of water. All right. Everything that I shared on this list is technically a food. And water, you can say that's technically not a food per se. It's fluid. But we do see that those who seem to live the longest are people who do a good job of making sure that they are consuming adequate amounts of water every day. Because in case you didn't realize, our bodies are mostly water. Your body is made up of almost 2/3 of water. So consuming water on a daily basis, and not just drinking water, but consuming foods. That's the great thing about fruits and vegetables, is that those are foods that usually contain good sources of water in food, will help to not just make sure you're staying hydrated, but it keeps all of the cells in your body happy, and which is eventually going to promote longevity down the line. We do see one of the things from the blue zones communities, the people that live to 100, is that most of them consume mostly water on a daily basis. And so I would be remiss if I did not include water as one of the things on this list as a longevity thing that you want to consume, food or beverage, because it is very key, and it is very critical to not just our long-term health, but feeling our best or being at our best every day. So got to shout out water here, most definitely. Now, here's the full list right here. One thing I do want to now get into is, when you look at the communities of people that live a long time, it's not just so much about what it is that we see them eating, but rather the things that we see them avoiding or minimizing in their diet as well. Those are things that also do matter. So I just want to quickly share a very quick list of things to, again, you don't have to cut these things out completely all together. Um, because hey, let's just be honest, y'all. We all like a nice treat. Most of us, if not all of us, you might like to treat yourself to one of these things every now and then. You might want a dessert every now and then that has added sugar. You might want some ice cream every now and then. It's okay to have every now and then. It's okay to treat yourself. All right. Um, Adrian and I don't believe in cheat meals. We believe in treat meals or treating ourselves. Um, might put that on a shirt, but it's okay to maybe have these things every now and then. Maybe some of you all like to consume alcohol. Maybe you like your wine. All right. Even we see in the blue zones communities that most of them drink red wine almost on a daily basis. So for many of these things, I talked about the meat, the poultry. I'm not saying you have to cut all of these things out altogether, but rather minimize these things so that they're not making up the bulk of what it is that you're consuming on a daily basis. So, highly processed foods, trying to cut back on some of your quick fast food spots, TV dinner type things, a lot of things in the frozen food aisle, anything with added sugars, a lot of added sugars, your sodas, your candies. Again, not saying you got to cut them out altogether. My wife likes a good gummy fruit snacks every now and then. So yeah, every now and then maybe okay. Excessive alcohol intake, excessive meat and poultry intake. So carnivore diet, we haven't, again, have we seen that as promoting longevity? Up to this point, that's not really a type of diet. You won't see us promote that on this channel. I can say that for sure. All right, excessive dairy, things of that nature. Again, not saying you have to cut them all out, but you do want to try to minimize these things. Okay. And so one of the things I do want to mention, going back to the main point as to why we shared these foods on this list is, first of all, these are foods that that have been researched back, that have been studied and are being studied. And the whole principle behind this that I want to emphasize is that you don't have to reinvent the wheel, y'all. We don't have to reinvent the wheel when it comes to finding the best diet to follow or knowing what are the best foods to eat. Sometimes just following the examples, or all the time, just looking at the examples of those who have been successful in some of these areas can save us a lot of time and maybe even money. All right. So, you don't even have to purchase a whole bunch of different types of supplements and, maybe some that you might need, but all of the different types of greens, powders, and all types of things out there, you can probably save yourself a lot of time and money just by keeping it simple, consuming a lot of fruits and vegetables, legumes, nuts, seeds, mushrooms, drinking water, all right, exercising. This video is more just about foods, but of course there are other things that impact your overall health and longevity, getting enough sleep, exercising on a daily basis, trying to reduce stress, being a part of a community of people. All right, all of those behaviors of the blue zones, those are the same things that are things that we can incorporate into our daily lives. So I do want to just share that you don't have to make this complicated. We can look at the examples, as the people in your lives who maybe have lived to their 90s or 100s. Hey, what have you eaten? Like, what's your typical, diet, or what are your typical habits? What do you do on a daily basis, grandma, great grandma, grandpa? And you might be surprised that what they share with you is nothing super extravagant or mind blowing. It's just they mastered some of the simple things and the simple habits that, we should strive to master as well. All right. And so as we land the plane here, I want to just mention a little bit about the common thread throughout all of these foods that we shared, and their connection and their tie to gut health. And so gut health has been all the rave, especially over the past, I would say about 15 or so years, 10 to 15 years. It's just gained more and more attention in the science community and the research community. And we're seeing more of how huge of a role it plays, not just within our digestive health, but within our overall health, our brain health, our heart health, immune health, you name it. And it really centers around this thing called the microbiota of the gut, which is what it is all the bacteria, all the viruses, all the fungi, good and bad, that live in our gut, or mostly in our large intestine, our colon. And so our colon, your colon, is home to all of these microscopic bacteria that they play a lot of roles within the body. And as you can see here, a key role in digestive, metabolic, immune, and neurological functions. We don't even realize that they're working for us, but they're in there, y'all, and they're working. The gut microbiome supports a number of different areas, as I just mentioned, helps to produce vitamins, hormones, other metabolites, harvest energy from food, helps with digestion, supports immune function, protects against pathogens or things that cause disease, sends signals to the brain and other organs. So you'll hear a lot about the gut-brain axis. So we're seeing a lot that the health of our gut can impact how well our brains function. So maybe some of you all out there dealing with some brain fog throughout the day, or having struggle thinking well throughout the day, perhaps could be tied to the health of your gut. And we also see that when our gut is out of whack, it also impacts a lot of these areas in negative ways, leading to a cascade of a lot of the events that you see here. And so what we really want to shoot for with all of the foods on this list really all go back to gut health, including water itself. We see that the gut microbiome may hold the key to healthy aging. This was an article that was put out just in 2023 by Duke University. One of the things I highlighted here was one of the latest targets in the study of healthy aging is the gut. Increasingly, research points to changes in the gut microbiome as a predictor of longevity and how well we age. So this whole idea of gut health, as it pertains to not just our daily health and well-being, but our long-term health and well-being, is crucial. It's very crucial. And that's why really all of the foods that you saw on this list, they all have a connection and tie back to impacting the health of the gut, because when the health of our gut is impacted, when it's impacted for the better, that in turn is most definitely going to impact so many other areas of our overall health. Can help us with our brain health, can help us with our heart health, can even impact how well we sleep, how energized we feel throughout the day, and everything else that you can think of. And so as we kind of conclude this thing, just want to mention to you all, if you want to check out any of the recipes that I shared throughout the course of this live, or even if you want to take a look at one of our very simple sweet potato hash recipes where I use both purple and orange sweet potatoes in a skillet. It's a simple skillet hash with black beans, purple sweet potatoes, and orange sweet potatoes. Then check out this video that you see over here in the top right, and we'll see you over there. Peace.